Nancy Pelosi spent decades building power behind closed doors until Elon Musk pulled the curtain back in front of the entire country. It started with a leak, not from a whistleblower or an anonymous deep state exile, but directly from Musk. At 3 a.m. Eastern, without warning or explanation, Musk posted a cryptic phrase on his X account, "Operation Doge is live," offering no context, no links, just those 5 words. He vanished from the platform moments later, but within minutes, the internet exploded. Reddit threads ignited, and Telegram channels speculated everything from alien technology to mass arrests. Exactly 12 hours later, Musk reappeared, not online but on a stage that looked like an abandoned Apollo mission control room. However, instead of rocket trajectories, the screens displayed financial charts, line graphs, maps, and something else, faces. Musk stood at the center, flanked by analysts and plainclothes agents, his expression unreadable. When he spoke, the room went still. He declared that he had stayed silent long enough, emphasizing that this wasn't about politics but about betrayal. The live stream, lasting only 8 minutes, sparked a firestorm as Musk revealed the existence of a covert federal partnership codenamed Doge, tasked with investigating what he described as a systematic laundering of taxpayer money under the guise of foreign aid and humanitarian initiatives. Though he did not immediately name individuals, the tone made it clear that these were not mere theories but serious accusations. The backdrop was real, an unused launch coordination center near Cocoa Beach, Florida, once downsized by NASA and privately purchased by Musk. He quietly transformed it into the headquarters for a financial intelligence task force he had been assembling for years. As documents flashed across the screen, emails, ledger entries, and signatures appeared, revealing connections to a senator from Oregon, a former transportation secretary, and several aides involved with nonprofits operating in Ethiopia and Myanmar. Then came the moment no one expected. Nancy Pelosi's face appeared on the central screen. Musk's voice did not change as he revealed that Pelosi had been linked to over $327 million in foreign transfers between 2014 and 2021, none of which were disclosed in public records. These funds passed through intermediaries registered as NGOs, religious charities, and disaster relief organizations, with many tracing back to accounts held in Luxembourg, the Seychelles, and Cyprus. Musk paused and revealed that some of those accounts were in Pelosi's niece's name. The public was shocked as the same politician who had championed climate funding, foreign aid reform, and ethics in government was now being portrayed as a mastermind of financial manipulation. Documents continued to appear, showing real estate purchases in Utah and coastal Maine, bought through shell companies and immediately renovated or rented to government contractors. Forensic records traced these transactions to a larger web of hidden assets implicating not only Pelosi but several of her colleagues. The nation watched as the documents spread rapidly, and millions began demanding transparency. Grassroots groups filed Freedom of Information Act requests, while even those who disliked Musk were unsure what to make of it, as no other journalist had presented anything so detailed or audacious. One viewer from Albuquerque later said that it felt like someone had kicked the door open and, instead of gaslighting the public, Musk simply allowed them to see everything. Musk made no further statements that day, walking off camera as federal agents took over the room behind him. The live stream ended without an outro or Q&A. Just silence, but the leaked documents would change everything. The operations center where Musk had revealed everything looked like it had been frozen in time, a relic of the past. But behind its rusted metal doors, it was restructured with cutting-edge technology from private aerospace contracts and federal surveillance resources. Musk ran this operation with clarity and precision, never giving speeches but expecting answers. The team worked around a massive curve-led wall displaying live data streams, bank activity logs, non-profit transactions, and surveillance data. At the helm of the forensic data operations was Riley Sonnet, a former military intelligence officer who worked closely with Musk on tracing these financial webs. One particular line of investigation focused on a shell account, Bloombridge Relief Fund, linked to Pelosi's niece through a Luxembourg-based company. The team quickly uncovered that the funds tied to the company had been used to fund a private jet booking, reinforcing Musk's suspicion of financial manipulation. As the investigation deepened, Musk's legal strategist, Seshabrand, warned that the pushback would be fierce. This marked the beginning of a coordinated effort to dismantle the network of hidden assets. Musk ordered federal agents to simultaneously execute searches in Phoenix, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and Malibu. As the operation unfolded, agencies encrypted laptops, financial ledgers, and phones, confirming their suspicions. In Washington, D.C., Pelosi was blindsided as federal marshals arrived with a warrant for her office. Despite her attempts to dismiss the investigation as a smear, agents continued with their work, while the media coverage quickly shifted from questioning Musk's actions to calling him a threat to democratic norms. Even as the news outlets began spinning the narrative, Pelosi knew the battle was far from over. However, Musk's momentum was undeniable, and the coming days would see the exposure of even more revelations as the investigation continued to unravel the threads of financial corruption. Not to the press, and not even to the handful of allies texting him behind the scenes. Instead, a single message appeared across the official Operation Doge site. It read, "Facts don't care who's nervous." Inside homes across the country, the divide began to crack wide open. In a small town outside Tucson, a high school teacher named Denise Farrow paused her lesson to ask her students what they thought of the Musk situation. Half the class shrugged. One boy said his dad thought it was about time someone did something. Another girl said her mom cried watching Pelosi get grilled on live TV in Tampa. A retired firefighter watched a congressional hearing replay in silence. When his son asked him what he thought, the man didn't answer. He just pointed at the screen when Musk held up a government grant form with 3 signatures blacked out. In a Chicago suburb, 2 brothers got into a screaming match over dinner. One said Musk was a patriot. The other said he was a narcissist with a God complex. Their mother, tired and quiet, just cleared the table without saying a word. And that was exactly what Musk anticipated. Inside the command center, Sesha stood in the press response bay watching live streams of cable panels. "They are making you the story," she muttered. "Let them," Musk replied without looking away from the scrolling data. "That's the only car they've got left." Riley turned from her station. "We're getting new pings. 3 more shell call confirmed," and Maxine Waters' niece just updated her online bio, took down every reference to Furnico Holdings. Musk gave a thin, almost amused smile. Guilty people always clean house in a panic. But the real bombshell came later that evening when a leak hit a major podcast. Not a news anchor or cable segment, just a guy named Mitch Enlow, a war veteran and independent journalist who'd made a name for himself calling out corporate corruption. He'd somehow gotten a copy of one of the private transcripts, an audio file from a meeting between Pelosi and her legal team, recorded on accident by a Bluetooth device. The line was crackly, but the voice was unmistakably hers. "They've got enough to bury me if this goes to trial," she said. The clip went viral in less than 3 hours. Cable news avoided it, but TikTok didn't, YouTube didn't, and independent blogs didn't. Suddenly, people weren't talking about whether Musk was dangerous. They were asking why no one else had ever shown this level of proof. Pelosi responded the next morning in a televised statement outside her Georgetown home. Her tone was firm, but her eyes betrayed a deep fatigue. "This is nothing more than a smear campaign orchestrated by a billionaire who believes his money puts him above the law. I have nothing to hide." But by then, the narrative had already shifted. In a coffee shop in Lincoln, Nebraska, a young woman leaned toward her boyfriend and said, "If she had nothing to hide, why is she so stiff?" Back in the war room, Musk reviewed the footage with Sesha. "She's deflecting," Sesha said. "Classic. Doesn't deny anything, just attacks your credibility." Musk said nothing for a moment, then set the hearing date. "I'm ready." But while the country fought each other, Musk prepared to face her in person. The hearing room was quieter than usual, not because there were fewer people, but because the place was packed. Cameras were mounted on every available surface. Reporters lined the back wall like vultures. Staffers whispered nervously, glancing down at their phones between each breath. This wasn't routine. This wasn't oversight. This was something else entirely. Elon Musk walked in with no entourage, no lawyers, no press handler, just himself in a gray suit that looked too plain for someone with his net worth. He sat down at the center of the witness table, adjusted the microphone, and waited. Across from him sat members of the Congressional Oversight Committee, some openly hostile, others clearly uncomfortable. Nancy Pelosi entered last, flanked by 2 aides, and took her seat at the panel. Her posture was stiff, her expression calm but icy. A murmur ran through the room as Chairman Felix Ramon, a representative from New Mexico, cleared his throat and began. This committee convenes today to understand the scope, legality, and ethical implications of Operation Doge, and to allow the American people to hear the evidence firsthand. He looked toward Musk. You may proceed. Musk leaned forward, fingers interlocked. The objective of Operation Doge was simple. Follow the money, where taxpayer funds were distributed under humanitarian pretenses. We traced them through every layer they passed, from the Department of State to private contractors, to charitable entities that were anything but charitable. He paused. I want to be clear. This isn't about party affiliation. It's about the erosion of trust between the people and the institutions they fund. He tapped a button on the small screen in front of him. The room dimmed slightly as a main display behind him lit up with the first slide. A wire transfer from the U.S. Foreign Assistance Office to a nonprofit in Armenia, a matching withdrawal 2 days later to a real estate firm registered in the Netherlands, and ownership records tying that firm to a management company in Belize. Would anyone here like to dispute the ownership trail? Because I have notarized copies of each step. No one said a word. Chairman Ramon leaned forward. You're saying this money was routed back into private property portfolios? Yes, Musk replied, and not just one, multiple. We tracked 32 properties across 6 countries. Some are rentals, some were flipped, or were purchased using funds that originated in USA programs. Pelosi finally spoke. With all due respect, Mr. Musk, you're not a federal investigator. You're not accountable to anyone. You're a billionaire with a God complex who's hijacked a federal partnership for a personal vendetta. Musk turned slowly toward her. If it's personal, Congresswoman, why is your niece listed as a financial advisor on 3 of the shell companies we found laundering those funds? She opened her mouth but didn't answer. Musk clicked again, and the next slide appeared, a 2020 email chain with the subject line Urgent Transfer before audit. The recipient list including 2 senior NGO directors and an assistant from Pelosi's office. The assistant's reply read, Confirmed, delay the filing. They won't flag it if it falls under development assistance. The scream behind Musk froze on that final line. You could feel the air change in the room, Musk said. Then came the question that pulled the floor out. He looked directly at Pelosi. How does a public servant who earns less than $200,000 a year come to hold indirect ownership in over $100 million in global real estate assets? No reply. Cameras zoomed in, reporters scribbled, and the silence was louder than anything spoken that morning. Chairman Ramon cleared his throat again. Congresswoman, would you like to respond? Pelosi shifted, her voice quieter now. There are many explanations for wealth accumulation. Book deals, investments, family trusts. I've been in service for decades. Musk didn't flinch. I have no issue with people earning wealth, he said. I have a problem when they disguise theft of service. A ripple of quiet gasps moved through the room. Sasha watched from the back of the chamber. She could tell this wasn't just about Pelosi anymore. This was bigger. People were starting to wonder how deep the rut went. Musk closed his file. I don't want applause. I don't want vengeance. I want accountability for the American people, for the single parent working double shifts, for the veteran who can't get a proper medical appointment, for every taxpayer who trusted you. He stood. The room was still. But even with the evidence laid bare, something unexpected happened 3 days later. Nancy Pelosi announced she would not seek re-election. She stood at a podium outside her San Francisco home. Her voice soft, her words carefully chosen. I've always believed in public service. I've always believed in the power of good governance. But there comes a time when new voices must rise. She didn't mention the investigation. She didn't mention Operation Doge, but everyone knew the statement came just hours after sealed federal inquiry was quietly confirmed by the Office of the Inspector General. No charges had been filed yet, but the pressure was unmistakable. Whispers of internal audits, frozen assets, and quiet resignations began swirling through Capitol Hill. Inside the halls of Congress, something had shifted. Staffers moved a little faster. Senators suddenly started asking for legal briefings. One prominent representative from Maryland quietly scrubbed his online financial disclosures. A senator from Nevada canceled a family trip to Dubai and hired a new forensic accountant.